All right, welcome back to the George Poulos podcast. This is episode 50. Super exciting. This is a podcast where I speak freely about my spiritual journey, my journey of meditation. I'm currently enrolled in a 200-hour meditation teacher training. As I'm recording this, I'm between weeks 3 and 4, so I've completed my third weekend of the program, and my God, I'm learning so much. This has really been a catalyst for quite the transition here in my spiritual journey. I mean, as I spoke about in episode 48, which was after the first weekend of the training, I'm really in this experience of breaking out of all this fear and limitation and finally opening and expressing again. And now it's like less novel. I'm like more comfortable with expression. I can kind of just sit here, do the podcast. It feels really cool. I'm in the flow of things again, and I'm so grateful for that. So one quick announcement here. Patreon did all these cool updates. So like Patreon has got a whole new app now. The interface is a lot better. I share all of these episodes ad-free on Patreon. The minimum tier is only $3 a month. So that's a great way to support me and this podcast and this expression. It goes a long way. And we've also got a nice little community on there. One of the new features in Patreon is this group chat. We just all get thrown in this group chat. We can text in it. You can say whatever you want. There hasn't been much activity in there, but if you join and you want to talk to me, chat with the other members of the Patreon, talk about your own spiritual journey and just share whatever, that's a place where you can practice being fearless and expressing yourself. Patreon.com/George Poulos if you want to check that out. So the meditation teacher training, it's going beautifully. It's going as amazing as I could have possibly imagined it to go. It's really beautiful. I'm at the point now where I'm genuinely excited for every Friday night. So we do the online class Friday night. Saturday and Sunday is in studio or online. And I get so excited for every weekend. And I think in the last episode, I described this feeling of being like in the zone during class on the weekends and then sort of losing it during the weeks and then getting in the zone again during the weekends when I'm at class. What I'm experiencing this week, and I got a little taste of it last week, is, and first of all, I shared this in the last episode, but I'll say it again. Hector told me that there's nothing in the class, there's nothing in the community, there's nothing at 3 Joules that's making me feel connected and in tune. He told me that that's a feeling that is happening in my own mind. And it's my job to figure out how is it that I'm creating that state of mind, that state of connectedness, that state of feeling in tune, that state of love and flow, whatever it is. So it's my job in meditation to investigate how is my mind creating that blissful state? And also during the week, how and why is my mind creating this feeling that I'm disconnected and I'm not a part of it and I'm back in a shell, right? So that's my work. This touches on a big concept that is not going to be easy for me to explain yet. And the concept is emptiness. And I'm not going to fully explain it right now, but I'll explain what emptiness means in this example. 3 Joules and this meditation teacher training is empty of nature. It has no inherent nature. There's nothing in this class that's making me feel better. A good way to exemplify this is that if you took a random Joe on the street and told them, hey, come to this meditation teacher training, if that person has no interest in meditation or Buddhism, they're going to show up to this class and be super bored and confused and think that we're all weirdos, right? So me and random Joe have a very different experience of 3 Joules meditation teacher training. That's because 3 Joules meditation teacher training is empty of nature. It's not inherently emanating in nature. It's not inherently emanating anything that's making me feel better. My perception of it is that it's this beautiful, amazing class, an amazing community, an amazing teacher with profound lessons and profound experiences. But that's just my experience. Where I'm actually experiencing that is inside of my own mind. So my mind is what's capable of having this beautiful experience at meditation teacher training. There's nothing inherently in meditation teacher training that's creating that experience for me. Right, so this is what Hector was getting at when he told me there's nothing at 3 joules that's making me feel better. And this better that I'm feeling, I have the capacity to feel that all the time. Through the work of meditation, I can get there. And this also touches on another big concept, karma. Now, I've tossed this word around in the podcast in the past, mostly channeling Ram Dass. Ram Dass uses karma a lot, but now I'm starting to understand karma in a whole new way. And it goes hand in hand with emptiness, and allow me to just explain these concepts in the way that I can right now, because they're starting to come in, and they're these huge concepts, and I'm still stumbling with them. You know what I mean? But let me explain karma in this same example. So there's nothing at meditation teacher training that's making me feel better, right? It's an experience that's happening in my mind. It's an experience. Another way to phrase that is that the experience I'm having at meditation teacher training is the result of karma. It's the result of a seed of karma that I have planted in the past, right? So if you think about that random Joe who, if I pull in from the street and tell him to come to meditation teacher training this week, he's just going to be confused and weirded out, and he's going to leave early. He didn't plant the same karmic seed that I did. I planted a karmic seed in the past that led to this experience. So we're learning about how the Buddhists believe that every experience we have in the present is a result of a long string of cause and effect relationships called karma. At the root of any experience that arises in our present moment is a seed that we planted in our own minds in the past. Or it's a seed that we planted through thought, through word, through action, right? Any seed that you plant with your mind must eventually grow. So the experience that I have at 3 joules meditation teacher training, it's the flowering, it's the plant of a seed from the past. New seeds of karma are being planted every millisecond. With every movement of mind, we're planting a new seed. The experience that we have at any given moment in front of us, that's a result from past karma. The fact that we are experiencing it is totally out of our control, right? So the fact that at this moment I'm sitting down recording this podcast in this particular apartment, that's out of my control, right? That's a result of seeds planted in the past. The way that I plant new seeds and what determines my future is how I respond to the experience that's in front of me. If you're in the habit of reacting, of when you're in an experience of blindly reacting to it, if you haven't done any meditation work, if you haven't done any healing work, if something happens and you just snap to react with, say, anger or fear or stress or anxiety, you're planting seeds of fear, stress, and anxiety. So the power of meditation is that you can look within your mind, look at how it is that you tend to react to certain situations, find out for yourself in your meditative practice, are those good reactions, or am I being triggered and acting totally irrationally? You can bring yourself to a point where no matter what the experience is in front of you, you know it's a result of past karma. You know that your response dictates what's going to happen in the future, how do you plant a good seed? How do you take this situation in front of you and plant a good seed? This is a super empowering perspective because it gives you the power in every given situation you find yourself in. Right? So I've been thinking about this long and hard. I've been thinking about, why do I feel good during this class over the weekends? And what exactly is going on that's making me not feel so good during the weeks in between classes? Why do I feel like I start slipping out of it? And the key realization for me, because of what we've been learning in class about karma and emptiness, is that my bad feelings have nothing to do with my circumstances. My circumstances are just results from past karma. They're here. They're out of my control. The state of mind, the feeling of being out of tune, that's okay, that feeling, the experience of that feeling, that's also karma. But then I have a choice. Am I going to blame my circumstances? Am I going to decide, am I going to run with a narrative that, I'm not feeling good because I chose the wrong apartment, because I chose the wrong neighborhood, because I made a mistake, because I'm not supposed to be here, because I'm supposed to be somewhere else? I have a choice. Am I going to blame the world out there, or am I going to go within and decide how I want to respond to the situation that is out here? So that's a little taste of karma and emptiness. And these concepts have just been running through my mind constantly. And I'm really grateful that I'm in this class and receiving these teachings. And these teachings come from a Buddhist lineage, so it's cool. I feel this sense of grounding. These teachings are validating much of what I experienced during my initial spiritual awakening. Right, where I found meditation on my own. I started doing mushrooms. I started realizing that I'm not my thoughts, right? This whole process, and it was basically on my own. It was on my own, and it was watching spiritual creators on TikTok, and it was Sam Harris's guided meditation app, and it was listening to Ram Dass. But it was more or less just me, like in my room, figuring this stuff out. And me in my journal, and me in my thoughts, and me in my books. I got all the way to the point of realizing that I'm not my ego. Essentially what I realized is that I'm empty, right? My image of myself is not who I am. My YouTube subscribers' image of me is not who I am. My parents' image of me is not who I am. That's where I came out with this phrase that meant a lot to me. I am nobody, therefore I can be anybody, right? I got to that. I didn't have the word emptiness for it, but I got to the point where I realized, holy shit, I'm nobody. Like, I'm literally nobody. I'm not bound by any of these constraints that I thought I was. I'm not bound by an ego whatsoever. And then, because of that realization, I started expanding and breaking through conditioning and having all these beautiful expansive experiences of infinity. But I think what I'm trying to say is it's nice to now understand, like, what I learned in all these Dharma books from all these various spiritual teachers, what I learned in these guided meditations, all of these things are right in line with this Buddhist lineage, right? This thing that people have been discussing and experiencing for thousands of years. That's pretty cool. It's cool that I'm not alone, right? There are people who have put these pieces together and passed on these teachings generation after generation after generation. It's cool that I'm not on my own. It's cool that I don't have to wonder if I've lost my mind, It's really cool. It's very reassuring. And having the concepts, that's what I experienced. It's karma and emptiness. And it really is all me. It's all me. It's always been me. It's never been the circumstances out there. It's always been within me. It's a framework with which you can live your whole life by. To choose not to be at the whims of your external circumstances, but to take the power back within you. It's a framework that if you habituate enough through study and learning and direct experience through meditation, you can live your whole life that way. You can try to plant a good seed in response to any situation you find yourself in. Here's another one on karma. And I think it speaks to, okay, I'm having all these realizations about this class and why it's designed this way. And it's perfectly, I see what they're doing. It's perfectly in line with these Buddhist principles. So I spoke about this in the last episode. We have a requirement to post on social media for our homework. We have a requirement to teach our audience about meditation 3 times a week on social media, or to otherwise share our insights. And for me, this podcast is an example, right? I'm getting credit for this. Woohoo. Why is that built into this class? Because if every thought and action plants a seed of karma, what is the quality of those seeds? If we're spending the time and energy to teach others valuable insights about their minds and to teach others about meditation, a way that they can achieve a real and lasting sense of happiness and fulfillment. If we are teaching other people that, what is that doing for our karma? We're planting these seeds of teaching valuable insight. So in line with the Buddhist philosophy, those seeds are going to grow in our minds. Those teachings are going to grow in our minds, and we will one day receive teachings back to us. So I think this is why I speak about A Course in Miracles a lot. I think this is why A Course in Miracles is so adamant that we become teachers. I think it's because of the laws of karma. Because I think if you share valuable, vulnerable, insightful wisdom, you're going to get more of that. You're going to get more of that. And just in my journaling and my thinking about this stuff, I'm like, holy shit. I think I know the seed that led me to this meditation teacher training. I think the seed was me breaking through my fear barrier and starting that spiritual TikTok and starting this podcast and starting to try to teach people the shit I figured out. This wisdom that has broke me out of a suffering when I was really attached to my ego and my identity, and when I was so confused. I figured things out through meditation, and I stepped into the fear, and I gained the courage to start sharing it. The reason I think that's the seed that has led to this experience of meditation teacher training, where I'm now receiving teachings that are helping me, is because I shared teachings that helped others. And there's even a direct link in my mind. It's through starting that TikTok, which was very scary for me. And I was super attached at that time to my identity as a skateboarding YouTube influencer. Sharing these things were super uncomfortable for me, but I did it. And it's through that TikTok that I literally met 2 friends that knew of 3 Jewels and spoke of 3 Jewels and even spoke of this training. So there's literally a practical connection. There's a practical thread. I see how me starting to externalize and to share and to teach led me to receive more teachings in meditation teacher training. That's my hunch. And it makes perfect sense to me. And for me, it's a validation of karma, that it's real. Social media, the social media requirement of this class. We've been through this before on this podcast. We've talked about social media before. But as I described in episode 48, when I went back into that fear hole, I developed this narrative of like, holy shit, I messed everything up. I had this amazing, brand-friendly, big, bustling skateboarding influencer Instagram. Holy shit, I ruined it by talking about this spiritual stuff, this meditation stuff. I need to delete these posts. I need to go back to posting skating, right? I went into that fear hole. This homework assignment has given me the excuse to be like, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I going back to this? Didn't I learn this already? Why am I going back to an extreme fear of being myself on social media? And starting this social media assignment, I chose to do it on my main page because I started to see, okay, I feel like I'm slipping back into fear. I'm hiding. I'm putting this mask up on social media again, pretending I'm this skate influencer that I'm just not anymore. And I know I'm not that person anymore. And I've had direct experiences where I have realized I'm not bound to those rules anymore. I'm not bound to that routine that I was doing at all. So why stay stuck in that out of fear? Fear of losing money, fear of losing followers, fear of losing brand validation, fear of losing. Okay, so I've made strides on this opening on social media. But then I went back into the fear, and now this homework assignment is forcing me out of it again. And it's not and back to karma and emptiness. This homework assignment is empty of a nature. I don't have to do this homework assignment. I may be repeating myself from the last episode. It doesn't matter. I don't have to do it. I'm choosing to do it. I'm choosing to be in this class. It's me. This class is just a big mirror back to myself. It's just a big excuse for my mind to do what it needs to do. It's just an excuse. There's nothing inherently in this class. There's nothing inherently in this homework assignment. And so I realized I never let go of my role as social media influencer. I never let it go. I made the new spiritual TikTok and I started expressing myself there, but it was kind of a secret. I kind of kept it a secret. It was this separate thing. And I maintained two masks. I maintained a mask of Bushwick guy who's spiritually awakening, and I maintained this mask of Bushwick skater who just skates and does brand deals on Instagram and YouTube. So I was holding up two masks, and I realized I'm still holding on to this thing of like, oh, I have to have a lot of followers. I have to get a lot of likes. And I was holding on to it very sneakily in the back of my mind. It's interesting to have this excuse. It's like this little excuse that's allowing my mind to bypass its fear. It's like, oh, I have a homework assignment. Okay, I'll post whatever I want on my main Instagram. Fuck it. But it's really liberating. It's really liberating. And for these 10 weeks, I'm going to experiment, and hopefully it lasts forever. I'm going to experiment with posting whatever I want on there. And I don't think I've actually ever fully given myself permission to do that. And I think I need to let go of this influencer thing. I really think I need to let go of this influencer thing. I think it's holding me back a lot. So this is all just very fascinating. These are some of the workings of, these are some of the examples of things that are opening and more realizations that are clicking in my mind since starting this meditation teacher training. In the last episode, I stumbled through a description of something called the preliminaries, which are steps that you do during the beginning of your meditation in order to warm up your mind for meditation. I stumbled through trying to explain these in the last episode. Now they're clicking. Now I get it. So I'm going to try to explain it again, but in a more simple way, because now I can say it from my heart. So typically, for my first few years of meditation, my object of meditation has always been the breath. It's been the breath and it's been my triggers. Those have been the primary two meditation objects I've worked with up until this meditation teacher training. Since beginning this meditation teacher training, a huge emphasis has been placed on using a teacher or a guide or your higher self or your future enlightened self as your object of meditation. So we've been doing this meditation constantly, where you, in your meditation, you get centered, you focus on the breath, you think of all the benefits that meditation can have on your mind. You wish those benefits upon everybody or upon another person. You wish for the end of the suffering of humanity, or you can choose one specific person. Like you could be like, I hope that my parent stops suffering. I hope that my grandparent stops their suffering. I hope that everyone can taste the power and the beauty of meditation. I hope that everyone can feel happiness. You do that. I'm rushing through it, but it's very beautiful. And if you do this with heartfelt intention, it can get very emotional. Then you call the teacher. In your meditation, you start to visualize that you're in a beautiful place and you invite your teacher. So for me, I usually invite Ram Dass or I invite my future self. And I was stumbling through these. I was just following the steps. I was like, okay, we're going to visualize, invite my teacher. This is kind of corny, but whatever. I stumbled through the steps. I tried my best to do them, but it felt forced. It didn't really work for me. This feels like such a messy description. You call the teacher. You think of all the qualities that you respect and admire in them. You give them a gift. Literally, in your mind, you give them a gift like a rose or a flower. Then you think about something that you're struggling with, something that you want to get rid of. So for me, I think about my walls and my fear, my social anxiety, my fear, all this fear that holds me back. You think of that thing that's weighing you down, and you show it to your teacher, and you watch as it just dissolves through them because they've been through that. They know the path already, and you feel the release of that. Then you show them something beautiful about yourself, or even one specific instance of something beautiful that you did for another person. So for me, what I've been thinking of lately is like, I think about just how hard I try. Like I try so hard to break through my fear. I try so hard on this podcast. When I sit down for a one-on-one call, I try so hard. Like the effort it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And sometimes I succumb to fear and I fall back into a hole, but the effort that I put into getting better, it's so beautiful. So you pick something, and it doesn't have to be as intense as mine. It could also be you held the door open for someone, right? You think of something that is beautiful that you did, or something beautiful about yourself that you want to amplify. You show that to your teacher, right? This is all in a visualization while you're meditating like this. So you show them that beautiful thing. You look at how proud your teacher is, and then if you want, you can visualize that thing as a ball of light, and you can expand it to all beings and hope that they all feel that beautiful thing. Then you ask your teacher to continue teaching you. You ask them to please stay throughout the day with you to show you signs. Try to feel what it would be like for that teacher or whoever you chose, or your enlightened self. Try to feel what it would feel like if they were really there with you, right? As you went out onto the rest of your day, for the rest of your workday, for the rest of your tasks. For me, what would it feel like if my teacher was here with me recording this podcast? Would I feel braver? Would it be easier for me to say what I need to say? Would my walls be a little lower? Right? You feel what that would feel like. Those are the preliminaries we're learning about. Right? So like I said, at first I was stumbling through these. It was hard for me. I wasn't really in it. But for the past 2 times doing this meditation on my own, and I think it's because in class we've done it so many times, I get it now. Particularly when I am visualizing my teacher, and I've been visualizing myself at the Middlefield skate park. If you've been watching my skate channel in the past, You'll know what I'm talking about. It's a very special place for me that I feel very peaceful. I've been visualizing myself sitting there on the quarter pipe, and next to me is Ram Dass, or next to me is my future self who's been through all the challenges that I'm working through. And when it comes to the step of giving them that gift because of how much I admire them, like I start crying. Like so often I'll start crying now. And it's because I'm really getting into it, and I'm feeling this thing that something is happening. Something's happening, and I'm realizing, and we're being taught, but I'm realizing actually now in my heart, I'm not just hearing the words, I'm feeling it. All of these steps do something karmically. Like your mind is actually planting the seeds to become that teacher. Like it's very intentional. And again, this is a teaching, a meditation that has come down from a long Buddhist lineage that tracks all the way back to the Buddha. We do this meditation because what we see, what we admire, what we respect in that teacher, remember emptiness, if you're following this, that teacher is empty. What we're seeing is us. It's us. And by doing this meditation, you're planting the seeds of becoming that version of you. That teacher you visualize, that's you. And you're planting seeds to become that version of you. And if you plant a seed, it's gonna grow. It's gonna grow if you believe in karma. I mean, whether you believe in it or not, it will grow. Because I believe in it, so I think it will grow. So those meditations have been hitting. So every Sunday we teach meditation to each other. We guide a meditation to each other. So we've been guiding this meditation, these preliminaries where we do this, where we visualize this teacher and do all these things. The first time we did this, man, I was stumbling. I felt so awkward and uncomfortable. The next time I was just starting to have a feeling for it for myself. So it came out much better. And I also think teaching that and also being in a circle of other teachers and being guided in their own style through the same preliminaries, that's what's helping it really form for me. Anyways, I'm going to plug myself here. I'm going to put a recording of me in Sunday Meditation Lab trying out guiding this meditation. I'm going to put it in the Patreon for that $3 tier. So if you want to hear that, check it out. Wow. Can you tell what's happening to me? It's amazing. I was so scared a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm like, oh, things are good. Meditating every day and really allowing myself to sink into the meditations and to take it seriously and to really give myself that time to do nothing but meditate, it's helping me stay there. So during the weeks now, I'm not feeling like I'm dipping as much. I'm kind of staying up here, which is cool to experience. And again, that experience of staying up here, it's just a result of past karma. It's my job to plant more and more and more of those good seeds. That's the upward spiral I'm talking about in that last episode. Okay, I had to relax the posture a little bit. Let's do a Q&A. I got a great question on Patreon. This one comes from Caroline. Thank you for the question. I touch on this sometimes, but like whether you're on the Patreon or you're just watching on YouTube or Spotify, I want to give you permission to respond to this podcast without fear. Like, use this as an opportunity to plant a good seed. This is a non-judgmental community. I promise you, whatever you write, I'm going to love your question or your comment. So feel free in the comment section on YouTube, by email, or if you're on the Patreon, in the comments or in a direct message. However you want to respond, whatever questions you want to ask, just lay it out there. Let go of your ego fears of asking a weird question. Just toss all of that out the window. I'm giving you permission to lay it out in the comments, to be yourself, to be fearless, ask the question you want to ask, share the experience you want to share. Just go for it. Okay. So let me read Caroline's question here. I've been struggling with my 9 to 5 job, pushing myself through the days so I can enjoy the afternoons, evenings, and weekends. I love the people I work with and what I do, but I still find myself frustrated with the restricted schedule. Why do we always search for and fixate on the flaws? Even when the positives outweigh the negatives, I find myself thinking, if I could only work on my terms when I want to, then I would be happy, then things would be perfect. What a joke. I need to learn to return to the now and remember that there will always, literally always, be something we are unsatisfied with. Maybe if I did find a job with more flexible hours, that problem would be resolved. But then I would find myself looking for another problem. Maybe I wouldn't like what I was doing anymore, or I would no longer like the people I work with, etc. I need to focus on all of the wonderful things that are right in front of me. Gratitude is everything. I'm curious, though, on your thoughts between intuition and satisfaction. For example, the feeling of wanting to move to a new city or finding a new job, does that mean you are just unsatisfied and need to look inward? Or is that sometimes your intuition leading you to where you need to go? Is there a difference? So that's a great question, Caroline. And not all questions have clear answers. So I'm going to answer this using what I've been learning in this class that I'm in. Can you think about this in terms of karma and emptiness? Whatever is making you feel unsatisfied, maybe you could use the word triggered if it's like pushing at something in you. Maybe you're getting triggered by the work schedule, the restrictions, whatever it is. There's nothing in that experience out there. There's nothing in the schedule that's inherently shining out with negative qualities that's making you feel that way, right? The experience that you're having is being created by your mind. And that's your karma. That experience is a result of seeds that you've planted in the past. On that thread of thinking, what is it that you can do now? What you can do now is take this experience that you're having and try to plant a good seed. And it's important to remember, maybe repeating myself here, there's nothing out there in that circumstance that's inherently making you feel like shit. The experience of feeling like shit is coming from your mind, right? That experience is happening in your mind. It's not happening out there in the schedule, in the workplace. It's happening in your mind, right? Certain external situations can poke at these things within us, and that's when we get triggered. Okay, so that's the crux of the answer, and I'm really channeling what I'm learning here in class. Okay, so then there's the question, is it my intuition telling me to leave this job? Or am I in the cycle of samsara? Am I chasing another desire because I think that's going to bring me happiness? And let me give you some of my own experience, right? I chased the dream of becoming a skate YouTuber. I rejected the corporate 9-to-5 career. I rejected the 9-to-5 totally. I grinded my ass off because I thought that being a skate YouTuber full time would give me this everlasting happiness and fulfillment. That high lasted quite a long time. I think that high lasted maybe 3 to 4 years, maybe less, maybe it started teetering out at about 2.5 years, right? So I think there's this big narrative actually, and I've probably contributed to this in the past. There's this big narrative that like all we need to be happy is to reject the 9-to-5 and build a creative career and work on our own terms and, be able to do whatever we want and be free in our work and our creativity and all this stuff, right? There's this narrative that that's going to make you happy if you escape the 9-to-5. But the truth is, it's just another thing. It's just another way of being. It's just another way of living. It's just another external circumstance. Speaking from my own experience, being a full-time creative, there are a lot of beautiful things about it, and there are a lot of shitty things about it. There's no guaranteed money. It can be very stressful. It can be very overwhelming. It can be very lonely to not have a regular set of coworkers, right? Being a self-employed creative, for example, again, that's also empty of a nature. Working at a corporate 9 to 5 or whatever 9 to 5 it is, that's also empty of a nature. Neither of these things are emanating happiness. If either of these things were emanating happiness or were emanating perfect vibes and perfect lifestyle, then everyone would pick the same one and have the same experience, and everyone would leave the other one behind. But that's not how it is. We all experience these things differently. So remembering that, I think, can help you. I think it's essential to know that to cut through this question of, is it my intuition or is it another iteration of samsara? Is it another iteration of chasing a desire that I think is going to bring me happiness? The happiness never comes from the external circumstances. But it's interesting. It's interesting and it's nuanced, because that doesn't necessarily mean to never change anything, right? And here's how I like to think about this one. I like to go to the end of my life and think about looking back on my life. Things are going to change. Like if I look back, there will be a certain amount of apartments, a certain amount of romantic partners, a certain amount of jobs, right? So change is something that does happen. I think the trap is where you're at in the present. I think the trap is thinking making this change, getting this new shiny object is going to bring me the happiness that I'm looking for. It's going to make you high for a while. Depending on what it is, it's going to make you, and depending how many times you've been through this cycle and depending how much your disappointment is building up, right? I think I hit a point where moving into this apartment, like I realized after a month, I was like, oh, fuck. Like this wasn't the answer. You know what I mean? For that inner happiness I was looking for. So depending on how many times you've been through that cycle and your awareness of that cycle, like that high could last a really long time. Like I was high on being a skate YouTuber for over 2 years, maybe 2, 3, 4 years. But eventually, right, that cigarette's going to burn out and you're just going to be holding a cigarette butt. And then what? You know? So the answer is not necessarily to never make changes, but it's important to have an awareness of the fact that chasing new shiny objects, and in that metaphor of a new shiny object, I'm including a new job, a new lifestyle, a new partner, a new apartment. Chasing the shiny objects, there's nothing in the shiny objects that's making you happy. What's making you happy is in you. And that high you feel when you get the new shiny object, it's an experience you're having in your mind. I think that's the extent of the light I'm able to shed on that question. I mean, this is something that I am reckoning with a lot, because I just thought that like moving apartments was going to fix everything. And it took a month and a half to realize that it didn't. But now that I'm here, now I can look back and I see, oh, things changed. I did move apartments. Let's say that I could be grounded in the awareness that I'm emanating now about samsara and the futility of chasing desires. How would I answer your question? I would probably meditate a lot in order to get a feeling for, is it my intuition or is it another desire? And here's an example I've been enjoying giving. If someone's in front of you punching you in the face, even though getting punched in the face is empty of nature, right? The pain is experienced in your mind. That doesn't mean you should stay there and let them punch you in the face, because that's stupid. So it can still be stupid to stand there and take the punches. It still makes sense to move out of the way so that they're not punching you anymore. But are we being punched in the face, or are we punching ourselves in the face? I think that's the question we can get clarity on with the meditation practice. And what I mean by that, and And in this case, it would be make your object of meditation this anxiety or stress that you're feeling due to your work schedule. Like, look at every detail of that you possibly can in order to figure out what's really going on. And another thing is, I think something that I'm coming to is that the specific decisions don't really matter that much. The decisions about which shiny object, I don't think those matter that much. I think what matters more is what's going on within. So that can take some of the weight off, some of the pressure off the decision. All right. Thanks for the question, Caroline. Was there anything else I had? Okay, I think that's all I had for this episode. Thank you all very much for sharing presence with me, for exploring these topics with me. Please leave your questions, experiences, thoughts in the comments down below. Just open up and let them rip. I would love to hear what's going on in your world. And yeah, thanks for 50 episodes. All right, namaste. I love you.